EV made easy with no deposit, 0% finance over 60 months on a new Honda EN1. Plus, get a home charger package, 10,000 Ks of RUCs and a free 5-year service plan. Limited time offer only while stock lasts. Lending criteria, fees, T's and C's apply.
Welcome to Tarmac Life. We're here for the fun toys, cars, SUVs, utes, flights, hotels, because the journey matters too, and even the odd motorbike when we feel like living dangerously. Epic drives and unforgettable experiences, all served up with plenty of banter and zero boring nonsense.
On tonight's show, we're giving the Subaru WRX TS Spec B with a stick some stick. GWM are doubling down under. We've got some top tips to power up your plugin's performance. Suzuki's latest Super Mini is here. We review the new generation Swift.
And thanks for joining us on this week's episode. I want to start off by again having a gripe, and that is traffic lights on the on-ramps. Really, what use are they? I get that they're for traffic flow to ease the traffic onto the motorway, but I've seen them using red lights when there's no traffic to be had and it's all sort of jammed up, or not jammed up actually, and you're just still there sitting waiting at the red light.
I absolutely agree. I mean, I work in town, and sometimes when you're on that sort of Newton Road or Ponsonby on-ramp at 6:30 and 7 in the evening, the light is red. You can see the traffic moving freely out there on the motorway, and you're itching to just go. But regardless of how well the traffic is flowing, a red light is a red light, and crossing it is actually illegal and a serious traffic infringement. But I'll let you answer in the comments how you view these on-ramps and how you view those lights especially.
I'll tell you how I use them. I use them as a race against the person beside you, or a 0 to 100 test just to see what the timing is.
Oh, that's awesome. And I must say that I do that quite often myself. And what better way to do a 0 to 100 sprint than with a manual turbocharged all-wheel drive car? That is exactly what we are reviewing next, the Subaru WRX TS Spec B.
From the stables of Subaru, the WRX name actually dates back to 1993, when Subaru set up their division, their World Rally Experimental Division, and the aim of that was to take their Impreza family sedan onto that global stage of the World Rally Championship, or WRC. That first Impreza, of course, well, that was piloted by Ari Vatanen and Colin McRae. Those two names are immortal legends of motorsport. But it's a little bit lesser known that we in New Zealand have actually a really strong connection with Subaru, and particularly their rallying initiatives that dates back even before that. The Legacy rally car, of course, made its last showing on the rally stage here in Rally New Zealand in 1993, before the Impreza. And then, of course, we have Possum Bourne, who is arguably the greatest Kiwi rally driver of all time. It is undeniably a WRX, of course, as you can see that bonnet scoop there, which my dad thinks looks funny, but is actually functional and tells the tale straight away that this is no ordinary Subaru. Oh, how can you tell this is a WRX TS Spec B? Well, for starters, you have this thing. Now, this wing is not available on either the WRX Sportswagon or the standard sedan. It's specific to the Spec B, and I mean, this is just classic Subaru in the way that it's big, it's bold, it tells you straight away that this is no ordinary sedan. It is very much performance orientated. This is a turbocharged boxer, so specifically it's a 2.4 liter turbocharged unit. And from that you get 202 kilowatts, 350 Newton meters of torque. Roughly that translates to about 270 brake horsepower. And it gives you two gearbox choices in the regular WRX. You can either have the 6-speed manual, or you can have the Subaru Performance CVT.
And familiarity definitely is the word of order in here, because this interior was introduced back in 2022, and not a whole lot has been changed in here for this generation, even though now with the tuned by STI, you get the STI bits of the STI that you actually want. For starters, you get these Recaro seats in here. They have the STI logo embossed to the headrest, the very prominent Recaro lettering that caught the attention of many people that wanted to check the car while we had it. You then also get, as part of that STI package, in the steering wheel a STI badge, and then just in front of you for the starting animation of the driver's cluster, a beautiful STI animation.
Now, Harry and I were just discussing earlier of how from our childhoods in the 1990s and the 2000s, the rally legends that we remember that were homologated for the road, well, from that whole group, there's only one nameplate that's still standing today, still available as a road car, and it is this, the Subaru WRX. And I mean, what a way to relive those glory days with this Spec B in particular.
Not only that, but also with 3 pedals and 6 speeds. And what a lovely 6-speed manual this is. It is really good to interact with. It harks back to the previous WRX that I had driven, which, showing my age a little bit, I can say that it happened almost 10 years ago, so it has been a long time since I last drove a WRX, and I love the fact that it feels this familiar to drive. You get the burble of the Boxer engine up front, you get, again, the 6-speed manual in here, this very specific behavior that they have tuned for the symmetrical all-wheel drive, that it feels almost invisible in a way. It's not like the other systems that wait for a little bit of slip, it's always delivering that 4-wheel drive that has made these cars so successful on the rally stages, right?
And I think we were having a discussion earlier about, yes, it's a performance car, but what does that word actually mean? Yes, to some people it might mean rapid 0 to 100 times and, you know, lap records around tracks and all of that stuff, but it can also mean this, the charm of having a manual gearbox, the fact that it has an engine and powertrain system that has been developed and perfected over so many years, decades now as well, and the rawness of it all. I think it's, in today's world of performance cars, the fact that you have a car that can make you feel so attached, so familiar, so in contact with the road and the surface under you, it's pretty special.
Love the WRX. There's something to be said about something old school and not changing or not needing to change. I love it.
Absolutely. In the same way that it goes for you, it goes for the WRX. It's about that old school charm, right? I think that after spending that time with the car, I was convinced that it is one of the ultimate daily drivers. So spacious, so approachable. It's great. What a lovely car that it is in the city. And yeah, it can be had as an automatic, but the manual is just the way to go to add to that old school charm.
For some though, right?
That's right, unless of course you're Matthew, because on the way back from our drive, he stalled the car 4 times, one after the other. It was so funny to watch from the passenger seat.
Matthew.
All right, very funny, you two, and you can, you know, make fun of my manual abilities as much as you want.
Lack thereof.
But I think there's no debate about it, is whether you go for the manual or the CVT automatic, is that the one thing the WRX did really well was its suspension setup, really well suited to our roads, whether it was tarmac or gravel, whatever. And somebody who is actually learning how to set their cars up better for our roads is GWM, who've taken over Holden's old facility in Australia. And Dave's actually heading over there to look at what exactly they're doing with the suspension technology. That's on after the break.
Go with even more grunt in the GWM Tank 300, now in diesel. Out there is calling.
Today we're in Lang Lang, Melbourne, part of a 2-day trip thanks to GWM, which is Go With More or Great Wall Motors. They've been in Australia for the last 17 years and now they're out to really prove themselves as part of their growth strategy. So yesterday we were doing their tech day, which was learning more about their high fours and their super hybrids, I guess, or their hybrid systems, and also their off-road capabilities. And now we're in Lang Lang, as I said, to really put these vehicles through their paces. So we've got the Tank 500 and with the Haval H6. Now the Haval H6 has been given what they call an AT1 tuning system. So what they've done is they've produced, or they're tuning it for the local Australia and New Zealand roads. And this big beast here has been given the High 4T to make it really very off-roady, and we are going to get this one a little bit dirty as well. So this one we got the comparison test with the before and after the tuning, and this one we're going to get down and dirty. Come on, let's take a look at this.
I've just done the drive with the non-tuned one, and the suspension is quite soft, is probably the easiest way to say. I mean, we're not going massive speeds, so not too bad or nothing too much to worry about, but it'd be interesting to see if I feel more confident in this. So I've put them both in sport, so it was sport before and now it's in sport again, and so that should give us, I guess, ultimate everything really. I can already feel that the rebound is quicker, so already feel that there's more, I feel a little bit more planted on the road below, which is never ever a bad thing. Yeah, it's definitely a firmer ride, and in terms of steering, come to quite a sharpish first corner. Yeah, again, point the nose where it should be, and it is going exactly where it should be. Yeah, less lollopy side stuff, so I know that's not really well, a professional opinion as far as that goes, but I don't feel soft in the corners, which is a big thing for me. Well, actually it should be a big thing for most people. So you can hear more of the road below, but I'd forgive that because of getting more in tune with what's going on with the road. So as we're going through a few different apexes here, I'm not leaning into the corners. I'm more straight or straighter as we get into each corner, which would mean that I would attack corners that much faster, or certainly feel a lot more in control as I am going into corners. Like I said, it's a good job. Overall, they're not major component changes, they're just little minor tweaks that have been looked at from every angle, and actually from a spreadsheet that blows your mind.
So there you have it. The H6 has proven that it's with a local tune, it is better and more confident to drive, and this big beast will just drive anywhere and take you wherever you want to go. Both great vehicles and part of a bigger platform. As you would see, there's a variety of vehicles here, and GWM really proving their worth. 17 years is just the start, and they're going to get bigger and stronger.
It is such a fun and entertaining watch. I love watching a car go off-road and mud going everywhere. It just shows so much about their capabilities, right? And I must ask, what does technical suspension tuning actually look like?
Well, in reality, technical suspension tuning actually looks like a big, massive spreadsheet data. And that's exactly what Rob Trubiani, as opposed to Joey Trubiani, which, how are you doing, was I kept mistaking him for. Rob is an ex-Holden engineer, and what he's done is they've brought him on board to really fettle with the suspension locally. And GWM are spending a lot of time, effort, and resource doing this. And just little minor tweaks, just tiny little tweaks, can make such a difference and make your vehicle just so much more confident to drive. And that's without even changing any major big parts.
Yeah, there is just so much work that goes into the things that we just don't see when we are driving around the cars, right? To really make them drive the way that they do. And the learnings that GWM can get from that will go into all different cars that they have, the utes, the passenger cars, and regardless of the powertrains they use as well, right? And I have spotted a few PHEVs there in their lot, which is great, because PHEVs are actually what we are covering in this episode's Tarmac Torque segment, because we are discussing how to get the best of that powertrain. Originally, plug-in hybrids were introduced with small batteries that were enough to get you in EV-only range to work, but maybe not the way back home. But these powertrains have evolved so much over time that the last PHEV that we had on loan has a battery as large as my own personal EV. And what that shows is that you need a little bit more discipline to be able to extract the most of these very versatile powertrains.
So with that being said, let me riddle you this. So I just came out of a week with the plug-in hybrid, and the logic that I followed was on longer motorway drives, I use the engine to charge up the battery, right? And then on shorter drives in and around town, I use it in EV mode only. Now, I did this because I don't have charging facilities at home. And along the way, I ended up doing a really long road trip as well, out of town and back. And overall, I ended up with figures that made this plug-in hybrid look like both a bad hybrid and a bad EV. And it just didn't make sense to me. So what am I doing wrong?
So what happens in this case is that because of the lack of the charging infrastructure really convenient for you, you end up dragging around a very heavy battery and a sort of downsized petrol engine that acts as the generator for that EV, right? Of course, in those cases, what might happen is that an EHEV or just a normal hybrid car would be more suited to you. And to the point that many manufacturers have now had to readjust or recalculate their emissions and their efficient figures to accommodate for situations such as this one. Plug-in hybrids really need a little bit more discipline in terms of topping up the battery as often as you can and really maximizing the juice that you can get out of them with regen or being efficient in the way that you drive on the motorways versus in the city, as you said. And of course, we have seen a lot of adoption of EVs a few years ago. The early adopters jumped onto them and we now see a lot of them on the roads, but range anxiety still being a little bit of an issue, and of course infrastructure anxiety made the PHEVs evolve and be more interesting to people. And one of the branches of the PHEVs that we are also seeing are the super hybrids, which try to combine the best of these two systems by not allowing the battery to deplete all the way, so you always get efficient driving all the way down to say 20%, but you still can combine a normal-sized petrol tank and a larger battery to cover as much as 1,200 kilometers in a single leg of a trip, which is pretty impressive.
So I have to say that even with my, as you say, ill-disciplined charging behavior, I still was on track to get something like 950 kilometers of range out of the full tank and the battery of this particular PHEV, which is not bad at all. But as you say, to really get the most out of it, what I should be having is charging facilities at home.
Absolutely. And now with more technology being put on the PHEVs, not only are we seeing larger batteries, but we are also seeing increased charging capabilities, to the point that most of them now even have DC charging in addition to AC, meaning that you can even give those very quick top-ups while you are on the go. So you can start the trip in EV-only range, cover for that in petrol if needed, and then do another top-up and you're ready to go. You have to remember that PHEVs can be the best, but also the worst of both worlds. And it all comes down to the discipline and how much it adapts to your lifestyle.
And speaking of lifestyle, one of the quintessential urban lifestyle super minis is the Suzuki Swift. And we take the latest generation for a trip after the break.
Choose what brings you joy. Choose adventure. Choose something extra. Choose to live large, even when driving small. Choose to roar. Choose to lead the charge by going electric, or the best of both worlds with a plug-in hybrid. Choose to connect while disconnecting with the world around you. Life's a joy when you live it on your own terms. What will you choose? The BMW X range.
This is the 4th generation of the Suzuki Swift, and even though that nameplate has actually been around in the Suzuki sort of warehouse since the 1980s, the Swift, or this Super Mini as we know it today, was actually born in 2005. And between 2005 and now, they have sold more than 9 million Suzuki Swifts across the globe. You get 2 model variants. There is the GLS and the RSC. The one we have here is the GLS, and that's available in both a manual and automatic configuration. Big changes design-wise. Up front, you have these new L-shaped LED headlights. Take a look at this piano black grille as well, which is all new in terms of the design of the Swift. And then this clamshell bonnet as well, a semi-clamshell bonnet. You would have seen on the back of the boot that there is a hybrid badge. Well, every single Swift model now is a hybrid with this new generation car. Underneath the bonnet, this has a 1.2 liter 3-cylinder petrol engine with a 12-volt hybrid system. What that gives you is 4 liters per 100 kilometers in terms of efficiency. That's pretty incredible. And then you add to the fact that you get 91 grams per kilometer of CO2 out the back. Again, efficiency-wise, it's really quite special. The other thing is, power is not too bad as well. It weighs in with something about 68 kilowatts of power and about 111 Newton meters of torque. So it's adequate, let's say, for certainly a small family's needs in terms of driving and power.
And in the interior of the Swift, one of the main themes is also the same familiarity that you see on the outside. Yes, the materials are a little bit scratchy pretty much everywhere that you touch, with the exception of the seats, which are new for this generation, and they are in fact much more comfortable than the ones that they had before. And in the main screen here in the front of the dashboard, you can see that they have stuck to the layout where you have 3 different elements and the home screen, and in the middle you will have the actual settings about your driving. You can see here you will have range, fuel consumption, and even instant metrics for you to know how well you've been driving. You can go into the history that will show the information from previous drives, and even an energy flow that will show your battery status and how your electric motor is assisting the internal combustion engine. Of course, you have the screen that is then in front of the driver as part of the instrument cluster in here. And they are sticking to that, again, old school sort of implementation. You have a real tachometer on the left and a speedometer on the right that will also show you your water temperature, your fuel gauges, and then quite a few different options that you can flick on the screen at the very middle. Actually, some things about the things that you control using the right spoke of the steering wheel, which is an adaptive cruise control, even for a manual car like this. So how cool is this?
In New Zealand, the Swift is a firm favorite of, rather than learner drivers, they're teachers. It's used a lot for teaching drivers how to, well, drive, and in automatic and manual mode. So today, Harry's actually my driving instructor. So how am I doing?
Yeah, I think that we've been doing pretty good. I have definitely seen you evolve over the cars that we have been trying out. You seem to be finding your footing pretty well.
On the other hand, this Swift now, for the first time, is available with a hybrid powertrain only. So Harry has been spending a bit more time behind the wheel of this car. Tell us about some of the nuances of that.
One of the main things that you will notice from the very beginning is that as you approach, say, a stoplight or bumper-to-bumper traffic, it'll just kill the engine. No ceremony about it, it just kills it. And no, you didn't stall the engine, it's just that it is trying to save a little bit more petrol when you are stopped. And then as soon as you press the clutch, it brings it back so quietly and very smoothly, because there is no started motor per se. It is just using the electric side of things to bring the engine back to life. So it helps with the efficiency. I have been doing 4.6, 4.7 liters to 100.
Remember that in a country like New Zealand, for example, the SUV sales are off the charts. So for Suzuki to say, actually, we're going to bring this new generation of hatchback in, takes a big call, and that just goes to show how strong its sales are as a new car in this country.
It's very impressive to have a car that is this low in terms of the sort of entry level of the market, and you have pretty much everything that you could ask for. The adaptive cruise control works really well, even considering that this is a manual. You get emergency braking, lane keep assist, wireless projection of your phone.
And given that, as Harry said, it doesn't have that much power, it's been constantly making me think about gears ahead and shifting, and it's the perfect car, I think, to learn, and especially learn in a manual. And, it couldn't be better.
Man, I'm a really big fan of the Swift. I love what it stands for. But in 2025, with that segment being so busy and so competitive, I wonder if the Swift still has its place?
Oh, great question, because for the same or similar amount of money, you can go out and buy an SUV with not just a higher riding position, but the sort of safety technology that gives it a 5-star ANCAP rating. And while this new generation Swift is actually a lot safer than the one that has gone before it, I think the thing to be said about it is that it allows you to actually drive it, you know, without the interference from technology, always pulling you places and telling you to do things. It's just you and the car, and I think that's so refreshing to see from the Swift in this day and age.
Great points. What have we learned tonight? That the Suzuki Swift is a great learner's car, that GWM are learning how to best drive on our localized roads. We've also learned the best way to drive a PHEV, and also that Matthew still needs to learn how to drive a stick or a manual. Anyway, thanks for joining us. See you next week.
Somebody has to start mowing a disused golf course now.
Good. There's something cool about being... And speaking of lifestyle, so what have we learned tonight? And speaking of lifestyles, one of the we've learned that... What was the third one?
PHEV. How to drive a PHEV.
I was doing so well.
Yes, you were.
And also the And speaking of lifestyles, one of the quintessential Kiwi urban lifestyles, Super Mini. That's a lot of words for no reason. Well, it's actually... See, I'm really good just off the cuff.
See? Winging it.
Yeah, exactly, winging it. Kia ora and thanks for joining us. Bird. Get rid of the bird, would you?
For you, suspension tuning looks like you're compressing springs.
We take the latest generation.
Latest generation.
I'm almost there. That was too much of a pause in between that, but...
Yes.
They'd probably cut it and see you next week. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. He's had enough.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, enough is enough.
There's only so much tape we can do.
An all-new Audi Q5 era has begun. Experience bold new looks, future-ready technology, exhilarating performance, and complete flexibility. The all-new Audi Q5 range is here.